In our scripture reading this morning, Mark wrote in chapter 5, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out of the tombs. This man lived among the tombs, and no one was ever strong enough to retain him, even with a chain. In 1978, when I was 28 years old, I needed a crisis intervention center. After a week of no sleep, my mind and behavior were spiraling out of control. My thoughts and actions became more and more irrational. It was my first episode of manic behavior. At that time, we knew what we call now bipolar disorder as manic depressive behavior. Not only was I out of control, but I was also scared. At that point, a friend of mine physically loaded me into his pickup and drove me to our local hospital. In a town of a population of 20,000 residents, the hospital had its own mental health ward, which was devoted to those in crisis. A psychiatrist immediately prescribed medication to calm me down and allow me to sleep. Medical care was there waiting for me. Continuing in chapter 5, verse 5, night and day in the tombs in the hills, he would howl and cut himself with stones. 2 years after my initial crisis, I was attending Colorado State University. I was living by myself in a small basement apartment. At this time, I was experiencing the depression side of manic depressive behavior. Instead of looking for a sharp stone to cut myself, I was staring at a full bottle of prescribed antipsychotic tranquilizers on top of depression. Would swallowing all these pills at once be the answer to my utter despair? As dawn neared, I promised God I would try to endure one more day. The next morning, I found my way to the student health center on campus. A psychiatrist was there waiting for me. Even though I did not have an appointment, he listened as I recounted my ups and downs in behavior in the past 2 years. He recognized my bipolar symptoms and prescribed treatment that very day. That day was the first day of my 40-year journey with this Colorado psychiatrist. As I learned from him, my disorder was not curable. It's in my DNA. In the early 1980s, my psychiatrist concluded that regular and restorative sleep is the key for overcoming manic depressive behaviors. In the last 5 years, research has finally confirmed these observations. Following his lead, I accepted a medication regime that has improved over the years. I have never wavered from his recommendations. My story is not typical for today's mental health care. When I most needed, my friend and God led me to immediate care. Can our friends and loved ones get immediate care in Topeka and Shawnee County for peaceful crisis? Returning to Mark 5, they saw the very man who had been filled with many demons sitting there, fully dressed and completely sane, and they were filled with awe. Mark 5 fits my journey as a man with behavioral demons that were cast out over time. It demonstrates to me that bipolar disorder was there in biblical times. My demons were not cast out immediately, but I felt the healing hand of God through health professionals and friends. In Micah chapter 6, we find, "And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God?" Thank you.